We're making a decision as to what we do with respect to the horrible attack that was made near Damascus, and it will be met, and it will be met forcefully.
That was President Trump just moments ago warning against a big price that will be paid by the Syrian government over those chemical weapons attack on their own people. Joining me now to discuss, Bassam Rifai, a member of the Syrian American Council, along with Rebecca Grant, former Secretary of the Air Force Office and Iris Independent Research President. Bassam, let me start with you. This quagmire, it's so confusing. And we've seen so many places leveled. We've seen Aleppo leveled. We've seen other towns leveled. We see a Syrian dictator who's employing the tactics that his father used, and it worked. And I think a lot of people are saying, how could someone be so inhumane? The fact of the matter is that this is how they win their wars in Syria.
That's right. I mean, this is nothing new for the regime, not for Bashar al-Assad, not for Hafez al-Assad, the father before him. This is something that they have done throughout the Ba'ath regime's rule. They have held their hand with they have held the hand of the Syrian people with a culture of fear. If you speak out against us, we will take you down. And there was the Hama massacre years ago where they had killed the whole city, and people just didn't know about it because they silenced everybody, and that's how it was in Syria.
So is it a hopeless situation now, Bassam? I know you still have relatives there.
That's right. I do still have family there, and I won't say it's a hopeless situation. Right now, what we need to do is we need to have consistent flow of strikes against the Assad regime. We need to take out his air force. One strike is not going to be enough.
Right. You know, Rebecca, and I think everyone's saying that this time, you know, no symbolism. Okay. You know, we want to see things that are destroyed, that were ready to go, that, you know, we want to see weapons, we want to see airports, we want to see runways destroyed. But let's talk about how murky this situation is. You've got the United States, you've got Russia, you've got Iran, you've got French forces in there now, you've got Turkey saber rattling on one side of the country, and of course you've got the terrorists who are still in the country as well.
Right, and to Bassam's point, the brutality is nothing new, but what is new here is the strong presence of Russia. Until Obama turned his back and let the Russians in, it was a different situation. Now we have to contend with the fact that Putin does have military bases there. He has propped up the Assad regime. He has made this his own personal playground of mischief.
Will that mitigate the response by the Trump administration?
I think U.S. military forces are ready, and Trump has some great possible options, everything from more TLAM strikes from the Navy to the use of our fighter and even bomber aircraft. He can find some good, discrete options. I suspect they are now reviewing intelligence and talking with allies to determine exactly what difficult response they want to give.
Real quick, Bassam, you mentioned that you haven't given up hope. Is it possible that there could ever be a successful uprising there? The Ba'ath, they're a minority, aren't they?
They are a minority.
I mean, so yes. What happened to the rest of the country? Is there any chance, or is it just going to be one of these places where if it's not someone like the Assad and his family, then these terrorists who come from the outside because they see a weak nation?
Well, let me tell you, there is a legitimate opposition, and there are people who are fighting for some of the similar goals that we have as Americans. Right. There are people who have been pushing out Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the HTS, Al-Qaeda, out of Idlib, and they are people who have responded to President Trump's request for Arabs to push out, for Arabs and Muslims to be pushing out terrorists out of their own communities, and that's what they're doing.
It's a terrible situation, and of course, perhaps by tomorrow we'll know exactly what the retaliation will be. We'll be right back.